Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Today we're going to be doing a best of shootout style comparison video looking at glazes. Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. So glazes, automotive glazes. What are they for very quickly? Well, these are the types of products that you can apply to your car paintwork to fill or mask light scratches. That's the type of thing that I'm looking at in this video. The products that are there to fill, that you would ideally use by hand as an alternative to machine polishing, to temporarily mask swirls by filling them with kind of resins. And by filling them, you kind of remove some of that hazing that you get when you kind of compress or slice clear coat with those very fine scratches. So glazes, as well as masking the swirls, kind of typically restore the true colour of the paint system below the clear coat. The 5 products we're featuring in this video: Adam's Brilliant Glaze, AutoBrite Direct Cherry Glaze, Autoglym Super Resin Polish, Autoglanz Supernova, and Poorboys Blackhole. Categories for this particular test are as follows: 1, price or value for money of the product, which is always important. 2, filling. And filling I've broken down into 2 sections. The first one, light or quick filling. So what product are you able to basically slap on your paintwork, leave to haze very quickly and buff off and get the best results for? So the quick use type scenario. And then secondly, what products can you actually achieve what I'm classifying as heavy filling, so that you might have to spend a little more time working these kind of products into the paintwork to get them to actually deliver the filling. But heavy filling, where you need more masking out of them, which ones perform better out of that? There's a difference. That's why I've got those 2 categories. Next one, ease of application generally. One after that, gloss on application. So when you apply these products and buff them off, which one is the nicest to look at? It gives you the most gloss. And the final one is durability. And I'm measuring that by the ability for it to maintain gloss on our test panel here that I've inflicted swirl damage on. Put them on, use the gloss meter to give us gloss on that application readings, and then measured that a month later to see which ones are maintaining gloss. Let's run through the prices here. AutoBrite Direct Cherry Glaze is 12 quid for this bottle of 500 millilitres, which is the cheapest. So it's the best value, which is fantastic. Next, like I said, Poorboys, £12.95 for 500 millilitres. Slightly more expensive, but still great value, you know, second overall in this test. Third, Autoglym Super Resin Polish, £13.80 for 500 millilitres. You need to obviously shop around for prices, and there might be variation, but I'm trying to give you kind of rough averages here. Fourth, Autoglanz Supernova, £15.95 for 500 millilitres. And finally, Adam's Brilliant Glaze, £19.99 for 16 ounces, which is near as damn it 500 millilitres, 473. So that gives you a comparison on the price of these particular products. Next up is ease of application, and this one is probably the least important because none of these are difficult to apply, but there are some differences. So let me go through first of all the one that I think is the easiest to apply and the easiest to work with, and that is the Adam's Brilliant Glaze. This is very thin. It's the thinnest by a country mile of all of these products. It's almost thinner than water, this stuff, very loose. So you almost just kind of put it on a piece of foam or microfiber, whichever one you want. I'd actually say use Adam's one with foam, and I'll talk about why later on. And just get the coverage on a panel that you've cleaned You know, cover it, you'll find it spreads very easily, and it will haze very, very quickly. And when it hazes, you know, you could leave it 2 or 3 minutes, you could leave it up to 5 minutes, the weather conditions will affect it. You buff it off, and it's very light and easy to buff off. So it is the easiest to use out of all these products. It's also non-staining as well, so if you kind of get it on your trim and stuff like that, it's not going to cause you any problems. So it's a doddle to use, basically. Next up in terms of use, and this is getting into a little bit of a subjective area on what I'm valuing here, and different things, other people might rate this slightly differently. But the next one in terms of ease of use, I'm putting as Autoglym Super Resin Polish. The reason I'm putting it there is, again, it hazes quite quickly, probably second only to the Adams in how quickly it dries. And after it's hazed and dried, it's quite relatively light to buff away and easy to use. The downside of Super Resin polishes, it does have those abrasives in it, so that when it dries, that film that's left behind is like a white powdery thing that does does stain trim, so you want to keep it away from trim. And if you do miss any of it, it's kind of quite noticeable. If you've been using this stuff on a car and hurling it on, you buff off, there's a very good chance of you'll see these kind of white lines on certain edges that you miss when you go away and do the buffing. Now you could argue that the fact that it's white makes it easier for you to spot it and get rid of it. The ones that don't dry white are a bit harder to actually know they're there, and you do want it all off. So swings and roundabouts, and it's not high staining. If you apply this and get a bit of it to your trim, you can wipe it off. It's probably the consequence, like I say, of having some abrasives in there. But I put it in second because of the way it's very soft to remove and the way it dries a little bit quicker than the other two. We're getting into the category with the rest of them now where it is not really, there's no real difference, and you could probably argue that these three are just as easy to apply. The reason that these three haven't won is they just require, these two in particular are a bit more resiny and require a little bit more buffing after the cure, and it's nothing bad, but then they've got the advantage of not staining trim. So like I said, the AutoBrite Direct one, we'll talk about this a little bit more, is very easy to kind of buff away. In fact, it's very easy to use, but it has some issues. So you could argue actually that this one could be up there in kind of second place as well. So this whole ease of use thing is a little bit subjective, and none of these products are really difficult to use. One other thing that I will make sense about why I've put these two lower down is to get the most out of these two products, you have to actually use them slightly differently than some of the other ones. And we'll talk about that as we go on to the next section. The next criteria I'm marking on was their ability to what I call quick fill. So use them pretty rapidly to just sort of enhance your paintwork and give the maximum amount of filling for a very quick application. And I tested this a number of ways, just by applying them all over a panel, the hood. And I also tested this by using a very fine grade of P6000. I've tried different ones. I've tried P8000, P3000, but I found P6000 wet. Just putting in a fine, very slight misting on the paintwork was the best way to test this product quick with this quick application kind of criteria that I've got here. So in first place was the Adams Brilliant Glaze. Like I said with the application, you throw it on, it hazes, you buff it off, it doesn't streak. When it dries, it just lifts off the panel straight away, and you can really see like the footprint of the restored area on that hazing. It's nice and clear and nice and dark and black, and that misting from the fine scratches seem to be the best kind of, you know, performance for a very quick use. Second place, and it's getting hard to separate them, but I would say Super Resin Polish. Again, perhaps because it clears a little bit quicker and it's lighter to use. Very hard to judge this one as well, so you can almost have all these three in joint place. With Supernova and Blackhole being virtually as good as Super Resin Polish for a very quick use. They take a little bit longer to get to sort of dry up, these two, and they're a little bit thicker and more resiny. So they're a little bit harder to sort of buff away, but it's splitting the atom. It's not really any significant difference, you know. But finally, in last place was the AutoBrite Cherry Glaze. Now this says polish, glaze and wax. It says that it cleans and masks defects and protects your paintwork. So the mask defects is the important thing. If it's masking, it's a filler, not just a gloss enhancer, in my understanding. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but there's a problem with this product. Or I don't know if it's a problem, but the product doesn't haze up. All of the other ones dry within minutes, and this one I could go away, leave it for an hour, and come back down, and the product still hasn't fully dried or hazed. It's still got a slight wetness to it, no matter how long you leave it. And then when I buff it off, it's done the least amount of masking. So even applying this quickly, you know, waiting 5 to 10 minutes and buffing it off, it didn't fill, and it didn't restore the colour clarity like the other ones. And even if I leave it longer, it still doesn't cure. And it makes me think that I might have a duff batch of this or something like that. I just don't know. But there's some positives about this, and we'll keep working our way through all of these other different tests. The next category, heavy filling. What do I mean by that? Well, I tested using P2000. I put quite a lot of defects and haze in a section of the panel, and it's asking these products to fill beyond what the amount that you would normally fill with them or expect to fill with them if you were using them. So it's really testing their ability to fill. And to get them to fill, you have to work them more. You have to sort of go again with them until you actually see the kind of panel come up to a true gloss and the hazing, you know, goes. So in reverse order in performance, tying in with the results and everything I said about the light filling, the AutoBrite Direct Cherry Glaze, no matter how many times I went with it, no matter how much I tried to work it in the panel, no matter how long I left it after working it and trying to buff it off and go again, I could not restore the colour clarity and get rid of the hazing. I could not fill, you know, I could not fill well with this product on the heavy filling test, basically. Next up, in reverse order, the Adams Brilliant Glaze. So this one was definitely the best to use quickly, but when I was testing it on the heavy filling, where you've got to go again and work it into the products, I couldn't get it to give me the results of the other products, no matter how many times. Again, you have to go again with this until you start to see the true colour come back, and it just wasn't as effective as a really heavy duty filler. Next up would be super resin polish. The performance of these three in the heavy filling was very, very close. I'm putting this one third. The one thing it did do with the heavy filling, it seemed to get to the stage where the gloss was coming back up a bit quicker than the other two products. I don't know if that's because the abrasives were helping in it or what, but it got there quicker. But I'm trying to do a consistent amount of kind of work on the panel, and the end results were better for these two products. In next place was Blackhole. So this really did a good job of bringing back the finish of a heavily kind of hazed up panel to the point where it was actually looking glossy again, although there's a little patch in the middle. That's why it didn't win. Just the results from my eyeballs, and I've taken video and camera of it, the one that did the heavy filling the best was the Autoglans Supernova. As you're working this Supernova product, you can feel the kind of resiny thickness of it. It's quite, I think it's a very resin heavy, this product, this one. And from doing all this testing on it, you kind of learn a little bit about how to work these products best. And this product comes into its own when you need to do heavy filling, but to get the most out of it, you've got to work it quite hard. And I would recommend you use a microfiber applicator on all of these when you're doing heavy filling, if you've got to work them into the scratches. This stuff, yeah, it did a great job on the sorting out that heavy filling, you know, the P3000 or 2000 hazing. Next up, we are measuring gloss on application. So we took our test panel, we very lightly went over it with, I think it was P6000 wet, and I didn't haze the panel up. I just put some micro scratches, if you like, over that panel, just to kind of simulate the type of condition or surface that you would be using this on in real life. I thought there'd be less benefit of measuring these products on a high gloss panel. That was my reasoning for this. So it's also, rather than just testing their pure gloss, it's also kind of testing the additional gloss from filling that they provide, I think. So let's just say which ones did well. So gloss on application winners. Number 1, Adams with 79.6. Number 2, AutoBrite Direct. So the product put a decent amount of gloss on the panel. It says it contains waxes, so it's probably a decent gloss enhancer, this product, if it can hold on to that gloss, and we'll talk about it later on. The next 3 were 2 GU units behind this one, all at sort of 73.5 through to 73.6. Close enough that the variance would mean they're all roughly the same. So that was Blackhole, Supernova and Autoglym. And they all added a reasonable amount of gloss, okay? So these panels, the control readings were around about sort of 66 to 68 GU, and our sort of average readings after application were between 73 and sort of 79 GU. So they all did a good job of making the actual test panel shine on application. But Adams had a noticeable edge in that department. Well, it's also worth saying, I think these particular products use acrylic resin. I don't know if they all use it, but I think glaze fillers use acrylic resins that are obviously dissolved, and then the solvent system, evaporates and it leaves the set resin in its place. So that's how they work. I should have mentioned that earlier on. Right, the final thing that I'm testing here is gloss after 1 month, which is I'm using as an indicator of durability. This one came out really, really, really close. In fact, 4 of them I couldn't separate. There's a danger if I put them in reverse order, it implies one's bad. The variance between these 4 was 77.1 through to 77.6. So there's only 0.5 of a GU variance over here, and that's getting into the stage where you could argue they're more or less the same. So Super Resin Polish had 77.1. Autoglanz Supernova had 77.2, Adams had 77.4, and AutoBrite Cherry had 77.6. But the one that had an edge a month later was Poorboys Blackhole with 79.5. So those are the overall results on durability. So Poorboys Blackhole did really well, and the AutoBrite Cherry Glaze came in second there with holding on to the gloss. So it's quite a good, even if I said this hasn't filled very well, it's quite good as a gloss enhancer, and it's quite easy to use, and it's the cheapest. So overall, I just want to kind of provide some final recommendations and maybe an overall winner, which is kind of the aim of doing these videos. We'll just talk about the products one by one. So I want to start with AutoBrite Direct. So even though this did really badly in the filling part of this test, and that was a big portion of what I was looking at here, and it did really badly, I can't beat around the bush. The purpose of doing this test is to explore comparative performance, and if I start hiding the results or stuff like that, it becomes pointless me doing it. But I also don't want to tear into this, because it's won the value for money. It retains its gloss second most out of all of the products, had very good gloss on application, is easy to use, and in a way it's a good gloss enhancer. Going back to the thing about the filling, it all seems to hang on the fact that this product doesn't cure. It just doesn't cure. That's maybe the root cause of all of these problems, and it makes me wonder if I've got a bad batch of it or something, which can happen, by the way. So I'm a little bit cautious about saying it's the product that's not working, or there might be a problem with this particular product. What I'm going to do is probably send this off to some other guys that know and understand glaze and get a second opinion on it, and I'll put an update in the sticky on this particular video with what they find about this product, and see if it fits in with my findings of it. So it's not been a disaster in all of the other areas apart from filling, but it has been very poor in its ability to fill. No matter what I do, I can't get this product to fill. Let's talk about Blackhole next. Blackhole is a product which has benefits from you working a bit harder. It's one of these glazes that's thicker, and if you've got a lot of filling to do with Blackhole, and you work it with a nice, either a stiffer foam or a microfiber applicator, and you really work it into that paintwork, be prepared to put a little bit more on and go again, it really starts to come into its own and delivers a very nice finish, a good amount of filling, and a really good gloss retention result. So that's a positive. One negative that I haven't talked about is Blackhole is designed and formulated for dark coloured cars, and I think Poorboys do like a white magic or something like that, an equivalent for light coloured cars. I don't want to have two glazes. I barely even use one in my arsenal. Why do I need to have two products when I could just have one? You could probably use this on light coloured cars. I'm sure it still feel, but it is all dark, and I guess you've got to trust the manufacturer. So that's a big turn off for me. I don't want two Glaze products when all the other ones don't have this particular problem. So it is a decent glaze, this product, very decent, and I gave Poorboys. We've not covered them too much on this channel, but I think I've covered a couple of their products. I've never given them much praise, and this deserves a little bit of praise because it's a good glaze in my opinion. Don't like that black and white or dark and light thing though. Next up, this isn't in any order, I'm just talking about the products as I work through. Supernova paintwork glaze, a little bit more similar to Poorboys, that this product comes into its own when you start working it a bit more, and I think for me it is the best heavy duty filler glaze out of all these. When you really go in and give it a good working and get it to fill into those scratches and then buff it back. Where it isn't quite as good as the other ones is where you just lay it out quickly. You might give it a little quick work, let it haze and buff back. It's not at its best if you use it like that. It benefits from being worked. So in one area it's the best, but for quick use, the other products had an edge. Let's talk about Adams now. So we kind of know about this. The first negative is it's the most expensive. Okay, it's got to be brought over from the US. You have to pay customs on it, so it's 20 quid. It's 8 quid more than the cheapest one. That's a negative. The positive is, as a quick use glaze, this is my favourite. What that you can just put on and don't burn too many calories. Just get it over that panel, let it haze up and buff it away. Very easy to use, and the best results with that quick use, which is really impressive. So I like this, and I'm probably going to keep this one, although I do want some of the qualities of the other one. Finally, super resin polish. Overall guys, this old lady I think is probably maybe the best, the subjective word of best, because if you want heavy filling you're going to go with this one. If you want quick use, non-staining, you're going to go with Adams. If you want budget, you might even go with AutoBrite Direct if you don't want the filling. But overall, in terms of doing everything well, this did well in the quick filling test. This did well, in the heavy filling test. It's got abrasives in it that can be utilised more on machine. It was third in terms of best value. It was okay in terms of gloss after a month. There was virtually nothing in it. As an overall one, it's done kind of okay in all of the tests, and I've used this for years and years and years. The negative is that perhaps the staining capability with the abrasives in there is something that you might not want. So if you don't want that, you've got these other particular options. But overall, that one probably is the jack of all trades in the pack. So that, guys, is the best glaze video covered. Let me know what you are using. I know there's lots of other products out there, what you recommend and what you like about it. I'll try to do this one fairly and honestly. Give me your feedbacks on the video, what you think of glazes in general and all that sort of stuff. That's it, guys. Loads of other producty stuff coming soon. There's going to be quite a lot of videos coming out, so stay tuned and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Other than that, take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.
Holding on to what I knew, but the moment's gone. Where was I?